come to know a term in international law that's becoming more accepted called ethnocide. This is a role that the churches play. They do to the mind what you can't do with the bullet. That is converting people from traditional ways of relation to the Creator, traditional ways of worship. They destroyed a lot of that, created some of the first boarding schools, as some of us experienced, and of course took on the whole system of acculturation and assimilation. You weren't allowed to speak your language, for example. Your hair was cut immediately. All traditional clothing was replaced by military clothing, and you were not allowed to speak your language. So it was almost as if they were creating a social experiment on every reservation. As we say in our communities, the Christians came with the Bible, and we had the land. Now we got the Bible, and they got the land.
I grew up with a lot of the older people, listening to the stories. And those stories were inside of me. And I went into a boarding school system, and they killed those stories in that system.
My name is Andrew Windy Boy. I'm a Chippewa Cree. I did 2 boarding schools, one in Wapton Indian School in Wapton, North Dakota, and the other one is Flandreau Indian School in Flandreau, South Dakota. It took me away from all of that and punished me for talking that. It was my first language. I didn't know any other language. So whenever I talk, it came out. Cree would come out, and whenever I talk, I get hit. I got hit so much I lost my tongue. I lost my native tongue. The only thing I remember was my Indian name. Which is Senukihi, means old man eagle. That's the only Cree I knew. They beat me. Every day, they beat me. They cut off my hair, made me kneel in front of the door where everybody come in. Everybody make fun of me when they come by me, rub my head and laugh at me because I was talking. They caught me talking.
Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools. The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. In the 1870s, the federal government, partly in order to meet its obligations to educate Aboriginal children, began to play a role in the development and administration of these schools. 2 primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home, families, traditions, and cultures, and to assimilate them into the dominant culture. These objectives were based on the assumption that Aboriginal cultures and spiritual beliefs were inferior and unequal. Indeed, some sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child.
My culture was taken from me. I used to get beat really. I never spoke a word of English till I was 11. I spoke Niska, and then they started hitting my knuckles with a straight edge ruler, you know, and today I can't speak it. I won't speak it. It won't come out.
Between 1900 to the 1960s, many Nishka children who attended these schools died from suicide, murder, and disease. In a desperate attempt to go home, some children froze or drowned. Many more perished as a result of residential school.
I wanted to die. I started in a residential school. They had to pump my stomach out. I had taken a big bottle of pills because the principal of that school at that time started to fill me up.
Two children in particular who had a hard time getting up and coming to school, and I would sit on the bed and try to talk to them and try to sort of help them get out of bed and come to school. And the supervisor saying, well, they're just not getting out of bed, I don't know. But now, from this perspective, I know that they were abused the night before, and that's why they weren't getting out of bed, and that's why they didn't want to come to school, and that's why, because the supervisor was jailed for a number of years for the abuse.
They used to line us up on tables in the residential school, and they'd have us stark naked, and they used to make fun of our bodies. And it just hit me. That's why I don't like being centered out and standing in front of people.
Children, the 60s scoop is recognized as a practice of a forced assimilation, and one that extended well beyond the 1960s. There is not an Indigenous person in this country who has not been affected by the residential schools legacy, and the number of Indigenous people affected by the 60s scoop is also very large. Across Canada, the number of adoptees is estimated to exceed 20,000 First Nation, Métis, and Inuit children.
Assimilate with the world around me with that feeling. So at 7 years old, I decided to take my life. I decided suicide was the only way out. And so what I did was I found a secret location in my dad's office because I wanted to go home. I was tired of being me. I neatly organized everything, and I went in the room, and I figured that if I held my breath long enough that I wasn't going to be here anymore. And so I remember sitting there at 7 years old, and I would just I would hold my breath, and I'd be in so much pain, and I wasn't crying at all. There was no feeling other than just wanting to go, not wanting to be here. And I would hold my breath and hold my breath and hold so time, and I was just hold it. And I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. I finally said, I can't do this by myself, and I got some tape, and I duct taped my mouth, and I just, and I would just lay down. And as I was laying there, choking for breath, I was happy. It was the first time in my life that I was really, truly at peace with what I was doing, and that if nobody loved me here, then there was no reason for me to be here. I knew I couldn't hold my breath to death.
The Western provinces have some of the highest numbers of children in foster care. In British Columbia, 8,169 children and youth are in care. About 52% were Aboriginal. In Alberta, nearly 5,100 Aboriginal children are in the care of the province. That's 69% of all of the youth in care there. Saskatchewan has more than 5,600 in foster care. 83% are Aboriginal. But it's Manitoba that has the highest numbers. More than 10,000 children are in provincial custody. 87% are Aboriginal.
When did this journey begin for you, Ronnie?
2007. I lost my kids.
How many kids did you have at that time?
4 at the time.
And how old were you?
23.
So you were a really young mom. Did your parents go to residential school?
Yes. My mom went to St. Mary's. I can't remember my dad went to station. I didn't talk to them about it.
Yeah.
My mother, they didn't. I don't even know about my dad's parents. He didn't talk to us about his parents. We didn't get to meet our grandparents.
Did they go to the residential school? The grandparents too?
I don't know. You have to ask James and them that.
Yeah, they did. That's what he says.
What I was saying is why they took my visitation rights away is I bathed 2 babies and got them all ready. Then I went and had a shower myself before the therapist would come in our home. The therapist would come in our home from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, whenever the visit would end. And then my kids would be at the window when the minister's knocking at the door and I'm in the shower and they know not to open the door. And they're saying, oh, Lonnie's neglecting us. She's not opening the door. Her kids are in the window and she's trying to hide from us or something. So they stopped my visits.
How does that feel for you?
It makes me feel
That's a crazy
angry.
question.
It makes me feel powerless. Like right now, I feel powerless. I can't even talk to my kids or see my kids. I don't know where they are every weekend. Are they okay? You know, are they eating? Are they, are they being treated ugly? It's all this stuff that goes through my mind. Are my kids safe? Are my kids eating? It's just all that. Hi, love you, my babies. Could we stop? No, I don't want to. I have a order. Hi. Is Mama Deb home? Yeah? Who's baby? Oh. Oh, okay. I can't be around my kids.
Can you just make a left here?
See you guys later. Love you. Behave. Love you. Miss you. Oh, my babies. God, that hurts so much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas. Love you. Oh, those are my kids. I'm glad I got to see them.
I'm glad you got to see them.
I haven't seen them in 2 years.
We have footage of it for you. Okay.
I haven't seen them in 2 years. I just feel so helpless, like I can't do anything. My babies. See, they know we're not allowed to have contact. I'm gonna get them back. I can't get a home because I owe $1,994 to the band office. I can't get a home. I have to work on my mental, emotional issues, my anger issues, and I can't do that when I'm moving from place to place. I'm not stable. If I don't ever see them again. I was thinking I want to write a letter to each child. I should have been doing every day. Write a letter to them and tell them how much I love them, care for them, miss them, and want them back. I want my kids back. I want them safe. I don't want no one hurting them. They're my kids. I brought them in this world. Well, not just me, but they're my kids, and I want them back. I want my life back. I want that Lonnie back, that person I used to be, that happy person, that outgoing person.
There were no red flags in child welfare offices when on a September day in 2009, a mother and daughter arrived in Vancouver among the pimps, pushers, and predators of the city's Skid Row.
It is an environment where there's a lot of untreated mental illness, there's a lot of danger, and there's very serious addictions. It's no place for a child. It was no place for Paige.
Paige Gaucher was 16, caring for her mother, a hardcore addict. The girl was well known to BC's child protection system, but her life was about to enter a new and tragic phase.
Girls like Paige have a currency on the street. They are good for being sexually traded. They're good for low-level drug debt collection and drug dealing.
But down here is where Paige spent her last days, in a women's shelter just a stone's throw away from a park known for drug dealing. Easy access to crack, meth, and heroin.
On the edge of the park is where she was found dead, 11 months after she aged out of care.
It was just right down there where she was
That's
found.
right.
In a washroom, is that right?
Yeah, in a public washroom. Nobody showed up to help her. No social worker showed up that day, and nobody showed up after.
Dead of an overdose, just days shy of her 20th birthday. The government says there will be no formal inquiry because Paige was an adult when she died.
Something deprived from generations of First Nations children by the Government of Canada, first through the residential school era, and now as the Government of Canada tries to defend its inequitable and flawed funding for child welfare that has driven more First Nations children into foster care than there was in state care at the height of the residential school era. The thing about this that's so unique is that there's never been a case in the world where a developed country like Canada has literally been on trial for discriminating against a contemporary generation of First Nations children.